Published 1820 Eastern Standard Time, the 3rd of March 2018. Updated 1820 Eastern Standard Time, the 3rd of March 2018. Nestled among brightly colored beanbags and cushions on the floor of an airy room in a large Cotswolds country house, 7 young men and women in their 20s and 30s around me gaze into mugs of milky tea. Draped in fashionable sportswear, they look fresh-faced and, frankly, like every and any other millennial Briton today. But they speak of months, sometimes years, pain, desperation and self-destruction that eventually led them here, to Gladstone's, a private addictions treatment center, where they are undergoing intensive treatment for a very modern but increasingly common addiction, social media. A 28-day detox and primary care course costs £11,800 at Gladstone's, which is recognized by all the major health insurers. Stock image, as the first journalist to be invited inside a 4-week program for internet misuse. I heard how apps and internet sites that millions of us use simply to connect with friends and up to date with current events have derailed and almost destroyed. And the problem is growing. Admissions to Gladstone's social media rehab program have shot up almost 100% in the past 3 years, as more people fall victim to the all-consuming online world. A 28-day detox and primary care course costs £11,800 at Gladstone's, which is recognized by all the major health insurers. I meet Susie, a 32-year-old mother of 2 from Berkshire, who was forced to confront her online addiction during a family holiday to rural Wales. Sabrina Greenberg, a 31-year-old app developer from London, turned to Instagram for exercise inspiration but quickly became addicted with limited internet reception. She began to suffer full-blown panic attacks, even refusing to play with her 2 children, aged 5 and 8, for what she describes as fear of missing out. At the time, Susie was averaging 10 Facebook posts and 4 hours of solid tweeting each day. She tells me, if I had a thought, I would tweet it rather than say it to my husband. For the entire 2-week holiday, I had to physically sit on my hands the whole time to stop me feeling so anxious. I was pacing back and forth between rooms in the cottage. The only thing that calmed me down was reading my Kindle. It was the climax of 2 years of social media obsession, which began as part of her work in marketing. As Susie's business grew, so did her reliance on her social media presence. I told everyone that I needed to be contactable all the time for my business, she admits, so I'd sit on Twitter and Instagram for entire evenings, ignoring everyone and tell them it was work. The kids would say, "Mummy, look at what I did at school," and I wouldn't look up from my phone. I was so immersed in it that I didn't even feel guilty. She describes the terror of going cold turkey and seeking professional help at the demand of her despairing husband, and was referred by her GP to Gladstone's. It was terrifying, she says. I had very dark periods where I wouldn't sleep for nights on end because of the panic. Lead clinical psychologist Dr. Caroline Rond of Gladstone's clinic offers a checklist for internet addiction. If you said yes to any of these in the past 6 months, or your online behavior has escalated, you may have a problem. Point 1. Relationship in trouble. Has your internet use adversely affected relationships with partner, family, friends or colleagues? 2. Are you time wasting? Do you lose track of time while online, at home or work, and spend longer than you'd like scrolling? 3. Are you on the edge? Are you overwhelmed with feelings of irritation, frustration if you try to cut back or someone challenges you about your use? Do you spend time thinking about your next online session? 4. Do you feed the beast? Do you feel the need to use the internet for increasing amounts of time to achieve satisfaction? 5. Is it an escape? Does time online make you feel better? Do you use it to distract yourself from depression, anxiety or guilt? The more I realized that it was causing my anxiety, the less I wanted to use it. I knew I had to do something for the sake of my mental health. During group and individual therapy sessions at Gladstone's, Susie and the other patients are learning to manage their compulsions through practical methods such as identifying triggers that cause them to throw themselves into social media use, and by keeping a journal and planning their daily activities, hour by hour. After 4 weeks in rehab, Susie's anxiety has reduced to a flutter and she's sleeping better than ever before. Switching off is a must for patients at Gladstone's. On entry, everyone must forfeit electronic devices, just as a prisoner might give up substances or sharp objects. I tried to hide my phone down my bra, admits Grace, 17, from Bristol, whose compulsive Instagram searches for inspiration led to her anorexia. Another patient, 22-year-old John from a farming village near Cheltenham, admits that he fought with his father, physically, when he tried to take away his phone. I had my dad's credit card for emergencies, and would spend at least £100 a day on gaming sites or buying things off people I met in Facebook groups, and racked up a £50,000 bill, he says. One day Dad stormed into my room and found me in front of the screen. He pulled me away from the computer. I wouldn't have it. Punches were thrown. I had my dad's credit card for emergencies, and would spend at least £100 a day on gaming sites or buying things off people I met in Facebook groups, and racked up a £50,000 bill. Shortly before discharge, individuals are reintroduced to the internet, 5 minutes of phone access, twice a week, with progression to 20 minutes of supervised computer access. By this point, they've learned the emotional tools to manage compulsive behavior and are able to resist temptation. A new addiction. As a prolific tweeter myself, I often worry about the effects of my 20-minute morning session. It's the first thing I do when I wake up and the last thing I see before I go to bed, and has even caused rows with my boyfriend when he accuses me of ignoring him. In a recent attempt to curb my social media habit, I downloaded an app called Moment, which keeps a track of my screen time. I'm online for just over 3 hours per day, roughly twice the UK average. Does that mean I'm addicted? I asked consultant psychiatrist Dr. Henrietta Bowden-Jones, who runs a private internet addiction clinic at the Nightingale Hospital in London. The difference with addicts is that their internet use becomes all-consuming and affects their daily life in a harmful way, she says. With online gaming or gambling, we see similar compulsive personality types to that which we see in substance addictions, but with social media it's different. These people are not prone to addiction. They are using it as a distraction, a sort of bandage to numb emotional pain. She adds, a person might be very insecure, which leads them to develop a terror of missing out. Or they may gorge on images and facts in a bid to make them feel better about themselves. Social media has actually been around since the 1970s, beginning with a program called Talkomatic, which provided an early version of a chat room for students at the University of Illinois. But the watershed moment came with the 2004 launch of Facebook, which now has more than 2 billion monthly users. Sabrina Greenberg, a 31-year-old app developer from London, turned to Instagram for exercise inspiration. Sabrina, who's never been more than a size 10, says, "My new Instagram friends said I must go refined sugar, grain and dairy-free, while doing 3 intense exercise sessions each week at the gym. Within 2 months, I became obsessed. At work, I'd scour images of healthy food and check my Instagram comments at least 15 times a day." 6 months later, she was surviving on raw vegetable soup and had shed almost 2 stone, leaving her dizzy, weak and unable to function. She tells me, "It was incredibly competitive. If you could cut out the most from your diet, you'd get appreciation in comments, which made me feel good but kept me very ill." Not only was Sabrina's Instagram habit bad for her health, there were financial implications, too. "I was spending £100 a week on meal replacement powders, protein powders, matcha tea supplements, whatever I thought would make me well." After Sabrina's mother intervened, she deleted Instagram. But despite regaining the weight she lost and engaging in counseling sessions, her relationship with food remains tainted. "I'm still not eating in the way I used to. I've forgotten how," she says. "But I now know who my real friends are. To most, it is harmless, connecting users with friends and family." However, in recent years, disquiet has been growing about the insidious impact its relentless of information, images, text, and video is having on our mental health. In December last year, Facebook's former head of growth, Jamith Palahapitiya, blamed the social media site for ripping society apart, and admitted that he felt tremendous guilt for unleashing what he referred to as the beast on an otherwise civilized society. And last month, leading tech experts from Google and Facebook launched a new initiative, the Center for Humane Technology, which will warn global educators, politicians and other global influencers of the technology platforms that are hijacking our minds. The extreme end of the problem can be witnessed at addiction centers such as Gladstone's up and down the UK, so What about the scale of the problem? While UK figures for internet addiction incidents aren't yet available, Dr. Bowden Jones has seen a stark rise in cases. When we trialed an internet clinic, she tells me, we were bursting at the seams in an effort to establish the true impact of growing up online. The Children's Commissioner for England, Anne Longfield, conducted interviews with 32 8 to 12-year-olds and published her findings in a report last month. She says, there's an avalanche of pressure and anxiety when children hit secondary school age, much of which is a result of social media. Pressures combine to increase the risk of misuse. There's a very sinister aspect too. Lots of the children edit pictures of themselves, perhaps receive disturbing images, and were overwhelmed with up to 500 friend requests. The apps encourage you to stay online, which feeds insecurity and anxiety about not being able to switch off. So what can be done? Former addict Susie says, the key is to deal with the emotional issues driving the addiction, and then find an activity you enjoy that doesn't involve the internet. These days, I run my online businesses without getting obsessive. It's all about moderation and not feeling as though you have to be more present on the internet than you are in your real life. There are so many pleasures that don't involve the internet. Since I've changed my habits, I read 52 books a year, I sleep better, and most of all, I am far, far happier. Some personal information has been changed to protect patient identity. GladstonesClinic.com